Thank you so much for joining us today on another edition, number 42 of Lunch Out Loud Ottawa.
Blue 42.
My name is Nick Wachowski.
I'm Andrew Miller.
And of course, Lunch Out Loud Ottawa is the podcast that talks to the people, places, events, and music that make Ottawa the incredible city that it is. And before we get to our special guest, Peggy Blair, why don't we check this out?
Time, hurry up, don't be late. Lying hard, unnatural, run away. Seem to think that you know everything. You are wrong, you are wrong. Baby, I don't feel like trying. Maybe I don't know if I will ever love again. Maybe I don't know how all of this will end, but for now, I know who I am.
Alright, so the band you just heard there was the Cody Allen Band. Of course, they'll be playing tonight at the Ritual for the Live 885 Big Money Shot, which will be going on all weekend. So make sure to get out to the Ritual if you don't have any other plans. It's going to be very interesting as we have several bands that we've already featured on the podcast before will be performing. So it'll be a lot of fun. You can catch Cody Allen at codyallen.net. He's booking fall tour dates, so he plays a lot around Ottawa. And so check him out. That song was Where I Stand. And we're here joined in Peggy Blair's great living room in the Westboro area?
It is Westboro, yes.
Westboro area. Just beautiful area, lots of trees. We got the butterfly just flew over there. Some crazy weather.
It's beautiful nature, landscape right here. It's like we're in the country.
Exactly, right? So how long have you been living in this Westboro area?
I've been in Westboro since 1990, actually, in this house since 1992.
So you've seen a lot of changes. A lot of infills are going on around here.
That is true.
Nice semi right across the street from you.
Lots of construction.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, and
Bobby Ryan just moved in the neighborhood.
That is correct.
Yeah, I saw that. He's moved in beside my friend's aunt's place. So that's just a couple blocks away. Bobby Ryan just joined the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, well, there you go.
Know who that was.
I didn't know that.
He
and
also
didn't use me as a realtor.
So. No. Unfortunately not. I'm sure the house that he got was probably quite a good one. He did put up a video saying that he was downtown Ottawa when in fact he was in Westboro. And he put that on the other day, right, Nick?
Yep.
Yeah.
What areas do you like to frequent in this area? Like what kind of establishments or restaurants? What are your favorite places?
Oh man, Westboro and the areas around Westboro just have so many great places to go. Yeah, I love having breakfast at John's Diner.
Yeah.
I think that I've met you there a couple of times. It's one of the best breakfasts in town. Going to the Wellington Gastropub for some drinks this evening with a couple of realtors.
Oh, there you go.
I've been down to the new Stephen Vector restaurant, which was fabulous.
It is fantastic.
I love Canvas on Holland, Cafe Mio. I mean, you name it.
So many great new places popping up all the time.
Yeah, and some old favorites. There's places like Bella's Bistro has been around probably for a decade or more.
Yeah,
It's one of my favorites.
And the Flying Banzini just opened up the other day. I went to the opening for that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I went to the Elmville Tavern for the first time ever, which is now owned by the same owners as Wellsbone, I believe it is.
Yep. What were your thoughts?
It was fantastic. Great oysters as always, and I mean the rest of the food was good. Service was good, and I like how they kept the old character of the old Elmville Tavern.
Mm-hmm.
Although I haven't been there before, it looks like it's probably been like that for quite some time. So, but
yeah, lots of fun. Any other when you have special guests or writers that have traveled here, any spots that they'd like to go to that might be off the beaten track a bit, or that you like to show them that are not the local tourist spots that are very well known in the city?
I think the last time that I had a bunch of writers staying here overnight at my place when the Ottawa Writers Festival was on, and they just really wanted to be someplace where they could walk, get drunk and be able to get back without...
You're in a great location for that.
Yeah, so they walked down to Wellington or to Richmond Road and turned left, and there's a couple of pubs along there. They did a bit of a pub crawl from Whispers down to there's 3 or 4 bars leading down to the Royal Oak.
And Whispers is one that's lasted all the changes I noticed. I used to live actually down on Fernbank for a little while, and Whispers seems to be the last remaining one, right? There's Whispers and Puzzles and
right.
a couple of other older pubs there that kind of got pushed out with all the change going on. But it's good to see that one's still around anyway.
And it must be interesting for them because they are probably used to going out on Elgin Street or the market and to discover a brand new place on Westboro. I know a lot of my friends, when they come down, they had no idea Westboro existed, and then they go down there and they're like, wow, this is an excellent part of the city.
Well, some of these people had not really been outside of the downtown core before, for sure. Some of them really hadn't been to Ottawa at all. I mean, I had friends that were just coming to do the show and that drove from like Dunnville, Ontario, was where Brad Smith came from, and so I mean, he's the kind of guy, he's a writer who, when he came, we were filming here. We had a show with Rogers. That's what Brad came to do that weekend, and so I had a bunch of writers that I was interviewing in half-hour episodes throughout the day. And Brad's the kind of guy where when he showed up through the back, the producer looked out the window and said, "I think there's a painter in your backyard." Because you would never see this guy and think that he writes these beautifully crafted books. But he's most comfortable hanging out in a pub, so that's where he asked if.
Is that where he does a lot of the writing?
I think that's where he does a lot of everything.
That seems to be
very eclectic.
We'll get more into the writing for a bit, but just while you touch on that, it seems to be a common theme for writers. Writing on location, different spots. Is there someplace in particular that you like to go?
I like to write out at my cottage. I have a cottage out near Westport, between Westport and Kingston, and the reason that I like it out there is that I don't have any distractions at all. There's no telephone, there's no internet. I can get smartphone emails, but the phone won't ring when I'm out there. So I can really sit in the most beautiful place you can imagine, where I'm sitting at a table looking out just right over the water, and kind of get into the zone, and
the ideas
be
flow.
very productive.
How many hours would you write for in a day?
When I'm out there, I can write from the first thing in the morning when I get up until 11 at night. I mean, I've written as much as 16,000 words on a weekend sitting out at the lake. Wow. So I can write a book in a month or two if I can get that kind of access. Whereas if I'm picking away at it here, I've got too many other demands on my time. So I might only write for half an hour or an hour, and then I got to get going on something else. So
you have two very good books out now, The Beggar's Opera, and the other one was
The Poisoned Pond.
Poisoned Pond, the second one. And it's a very interesting story of how you got to writing in the first place. How did you decide to write these books?
Yeah, like I was talking to Nick on the way here, actually. I said that writing seems to be one of those things that everybody, kind of thinks at some point in their life or another, they think, maybe I should write a book. And obviously not everyone in the world acts on that sort of thing. And, so like Nick said, what brought you to act on it?
I was not one of those people who thought about writing a book. I actually didn't think I could write a book because I was a lawyer before I went into real estate for about 30 years. And everything you write in law is really dry and pretty boring, So I'd left, I guess looking back on it, I actually left my legal career without sort of realizing it. I'd been working in the Indian residential schools process, and I'd gotten pretty burned out hearing stories of physical and sexual abuse of children for a number of years. And so I'd left the position that I had, but I hadn't really found anything else. And I was kind of just sitting around. In retrospect, I was pretty burned out. But at the time, all I knew was that I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. I knew what I didn't want to do. And I was just kind of sitting around decompressing. And my daughter came home from McGill at the time, and she said, "Well, Mom, you can't just sit around. You've got to do something," which was pretty funny.
As great as it sounds.
Yeah, because, this came from a kid at the time who hadn't done much of anything herself. And it just really popped into my head. I said, "Oh, I'll write a book." And she was like, "Yeah, I roll," like, "No, what are you really going to do?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll write a book." And honestly, that was sort of it. We threw around some ideas, and 3 weeks later, I had
you and your daughter threw around the ideas.
Yeah, she came up with some of the.
So the thought of writing the book came before actually having something in mind that you really wanted to write about even.
The idea for the book came just chatting with her that day, right at this very table that we're sitting at right now.
Oh, that's cool.
It really. I think I was just trying to put her off. It was a delaying tactic.
Go back to McGill.
That's right.
and for the listeners at home that don't know about the story about the inspector, what is the first book about in a kind of a nutshell?
Oh, the books are so complicated.
They are very
complicated. They're hard to put into a nutshell. It's like all of it's in a bit of a nutshell.
My favorite thing about the books was when I did receive it, I thought, had no idea what to expect. I'm like, okay, this might take me a month to read or something. It took me 2 days to read the first one and then 3 days for the second one. It was incredible story.
Geez, what took you so long?
I know. It reminds me a lot of like a Dexter episode or a Breaking Bad. Lots of twists, lots of great, interesting twists that you want to find out. But you also learn about Cuba, which was very interesting to me as well. And a lot about your work as a lawyer is involved with the book as well. And I get to learn about that. And of course, it's not mentioned in the news enough. So you don't learn about it enough, and it's very good to put a very interesting twist on it that will keep the reader there, but also the reader will learn a lot from reading the book. So I love that kind of part of it.
No, I appreciate that. Cuba was a bit mercenary on my part. I think I was conscious of the fact when we were talking that it was an area that lots of Canadians went to, but that there really weren't a lot of, certainly not these kinds of books centered in Cuba. And, part of me, even though I wasn't really very serious about it when I got started, I think part of me knew that if I wanted to actually get this book sold to a publisher or find an agent, that it had to have a hook of some kind. And that was the one that came to mind right away, was you just set it in a really exotic location, create some wild characters, because they are pretty...
Yeah.
I mean, the test is to make characters that are really over the top, believable. And that's kind of what I set out to do, is how do you bring them back to earth where people are prepared to believe that there's like a dwarf pathologist who climbs up and down ladders when he's doing autopsies and stuff like that, right? That came, by the way, I was in the kitchen, right, that we're talking right next to, standing on a stool trying to get something out of a top.
That's how you thought of my character.
Damn you, that was exactly, I thought, why not give him my problem, Why not make him really short? And then I thought, if you're going to make him short, why not make him really, really, really short?
How short is he? Like,
I think I have him at around 4 feet. He's a dwarf,
There you go.
And he finds... Well, I'm not going to read
Yeah.
that.
You'll ruin it for everyone.
The next story, which I know would take a full hour to talk about, is how you met your publisher, which is very interesting as well. It's just one of those kind of leave it up to fate and really interesting story.
I guess, some of these things that look like fate, I always say if you work really hard, you get lucky, right? It's like, it isn't really fate, and it is. I mean, part of it is just being really open to everything that happens.
And you're sort of steering in that direction, right?
Yeah,
so
and you just don't give up. Like, you just keep going, and then when it works, you look back and say, oh man, I was in the right place at the right time. But really, you'd been in like 9,000 wrong places before you finally got to the right one. And that's kind of what happened to me, Nick. I had... the book was rejected 150 odd times, and I was getting to that point of saying, okay, clearly the universe is sending me a message here that this isn't working. So I stopped sending it out to be rejected. I entered it into some competitions instead for unpublished novels, and then I got shortlisted for one in the UK, which was quite extraordinary. So by then, remember, I hadn't been working for probably about 18 months. Like, once I got into this venture, I really got into it.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. Eh?
Yeah, if you're going to do it, you do it. And so now everybody was rolling their eyes and wondering, has she completely lost her mind? When is she actually going to get to work, So I decided I was going to go into real estate, and I was doing my real estate exams at the time when I found out that the book had been shortlisted in the UK. And they invited me to go to Harrogate, which is where they have this big festival every year that includes the award ceremonies for the shortlist. And by then, I really didn't have any money left. I've been living on savings and not working. So my friends held a fundraiser to send me over to Harrogate, which was pretty cool. And then when I got there, it was this horrible, depressed atmosphere because ebooks were out and all the publishers were really having a hard time, and no one was signing any new authors, and everybody I ran into said you should just go back to Ottawa and do real estate. Forget about it. You're not going to get anywhere with this. So, and I lost, right? I didn't win the debut dagger that I was up for. So, pretty depressing experience. And I'm sitting in England, waiting for my red-eye flight at 3 a.m, thinking how much money I'd wasted, and really thinking to myself, this is the end of the road. Now I've tried everything. It just didn't work. It didn't happen. And so I went to the bar to say goodbye to the people I met. None of them were there, so I'm at the bar all by myself, with this glass of wine, going, crap, this is like the worst trip I've ever been on. And the Scottish author Ian Rankin walked in, and I'd had a glass of wine, I think I'd only had one at the time, and I'd been asked if I saw anybody famous, if I could take their picture for one of the mystery websites in Canada. So I called out to him, and he came over to chat, and I mean, I'm talking like a 2-minute encounter, really. It was very, very short. He just said, where in Canada are you from? I said Ottawa. He'd been here for Blues Fest the week before with his son.
Oh, cool.
So we had something to talk about for a few minutes, and then he said, why are you here? And I told him. He said, do you have an agent? I snorted. He said, oh, well, have you contacted my publisher? And I didn't even know who that person was. He gave me her name and essentially said, use my name. And when I contacted her, she was like, well, if Ian's recommending your work, of course I'll look at it. Do you have an agent? And I said, no. And she said, well, have you contacted his agent? And within about a week, his agent was my agent, and the book was headed for the Frankfurt Book Fair, where it was picked up by a number of foreign publishers. So,
congrats.
it was pretty exciting.
Great.
So, moral of the story is, don't give up drinking wine and talking about strange men in bars.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds like it leads you to only good places.
Only good things can come from that.
Yeah.
That's what you've heard.
For sure.
And now it's just recently published in the Czech Republic.
It's going to be published in the Czech Republic. It's been published in the UK. It's been published in the US, Norway, coming out Germany in January. There's lots of stuff going on with the book.
That's wonderful,
Yeah.
and it's and number 3 and 4. Are you completely done? Number 4 now, up to number 4.
Number 3 is in the editing queue at the moment.
Yeah.
Number 4 is written in first draft form. It's just out for reading with the publisher.
And are these all? This is all series. Excuse me, I didn't read the books yet.
I'm giving them to him.
Nick was just holding on to them with a death grip. So
unfortunately,
yeah, it's all part of the same series.
Oh, okay.
It's all part of the same series.
Awesome.
And so possibly in early 2014,
June. Publication date for it's called Hungry Ghosts, and it's a little bit of a departure from from the first 2 books, because it's half set in a northern Indian reserve and half in Cuba, where you have the 2 police forces essentially investigating very similar crimes without realizing they're looking for the same person. So the reader knows, but they don't know, and then it follows them to the point where they realize what's going on.
So interesting. Cool. I love it. All right, we'll be right back with Peggy, and we'll talk more about the Writers' Festival, many festivals that happen in Ottawa for writers and authors, and what we can do better for them.
Yeah. And a bit more about the process. I want to learn about, you write the book and
that's
what next.
Absolutely, and more of what Peggy does as well.
Absolutely.
So the next song is going to be Read Between the Lines from the Cody Allen Band, and we'll be right back. All right. So that was the Cody Allen Band, Read Between the Lines. An excellent song, so catch him at the Ritual.
Oh, phone's ringing.
We got a phone, and the phone is...
We're good.
We're going to pause.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We got a quick phone call, but being in real estate, that phone rings, you got to answer it, right, Peggy?
That's it.
Who knows?
This is my life.
Who knows what it could be? So let's get back to writing. Like I said, lots of people out there, something they might want to do. How could somebody go about writing a book? In short, you got an idea, you're writing your book, and now you have, thousands of pages in your hand that you've just put together. And this is something, like you said, you went about and you got about, 150 rejections or whatever you said. So what happens during that process? Like, who are you sending the book off to try to get
okay. Well, traditionally the aspiring author is told to do what's called querying, which is you do a one-page letter. It's called a query letter. It sets out how many words your book is, the genre it's in. It gives, when you read the back of a dust jacket on a book and it gives you a little paragraph, you write that paragraph.
Okay.
So that's the hook, right? If you were in a bookstore picking up a book thinking of whether you want to buy it or not, it's the same for the agent. They're going to read that hook in your letter and decide whether they want to see more. So typically, I mean, traditionally that was how you found agents. In real life, you almost never find an agent that way because they get hundreds of those inquiries every day. They get thousands every year. They go into something called the slush pile.
Okay.
And the slush pile is usually turned over in an agency to an intern. You know, it's really luck of the draw as to whether anybody's ever going to read your letter or whether they'll take the next step, which is to request a few chapters, or if they really like those chapters, to request the full manuscript. So it happens. I mean, it's not like nobody responded. I had agents who said, "Send us your first 30 pages or whatever,"
okay.
and then they come back and you get almost a form response that says we weren't very enthusiastic, or we don't feel we're the right people, or we're just not as excited as we would like to be. Or
they don't really give you any notes on tips on how to make,
sometimes,
what they'd be looking for?
Sometimes they do. There was a guy named Donald Maas in New York who's married to a Canadian.
Okay.
And because of that, I think was really very open to me and very kind to me. And he went so far as to take one of the chapters that I'd written and rewrite a few paragraphs to show me how he thought it should be.
Was
and
it
then,
better? Was it
yeah,
better?
much.
Yeah.
And then it turned out he'd written a book on how to write books that I went to, and that's where I made a lot of changes to the manuscript that moved along. So it's kind of an interactive process. I mean, you get the feedback, you sit down, you relook at your manuscript, you make some changes, you send it out to the next batch. But the vast majority of the people that I know who have found agents don't find them via that process. It happens occasionally, but more often it's they know an author who likes their work or who's read it and says, "Oh, like Ian did with me. Have you talked to my agent?"
Yeah,
and
it always helps with the who you know.
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
thing, right?
And that opens the door because these are people who now you're up on their radar as opposed to being at the bottom of the slush pile. Once that happens, you're only through the first gate, really, because now you may have a literary agent and you go through the contractual terms and whatnot. But then they have to then sell the book to a publisher, and they will each have a little circle of people that they have relationships with in some of the publishing houses where they know what those people are looking for, and they'll contact that editor and say, would you like, I have this story about blah, 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 would you be interested in seeing it? And even that's not the end of the process, because if the editor finds it, reads it, loves it, they then have to sell it to their team, which involves people from marketing and publicity and sales and all the rest of it. And if they don't think that it's the right time, or it conflicts with something they already have, or whatever, you can have an editor who loves the book and you still don't get it picked up by the publisher. So I mean, it's like it's like a race of hurdles,
Yeah.
And you can knock one over at any stage and be disqualified, kind of.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So after you get the first one going, obviously, does that kind of get the ball rolling? Does your second and third and now fourth book, is it that much easier? Is it still a struggle, each one?
I would say it's almost that much harder because the first one that's out the gate, everyone has great expectations for. Okay. But if it doesn't become an instant bestseller, those expectations are flattened, and they're looking for the next, who's the other author that's
Gotcha.
going to hit that list. So if your book doesn't do respectably well, and if the first one out the gate doesn't kind of achieve those goals, it becomes harder to sell the next books in the series, because now you have a track record, and the track record didn't exceed expectations.
Gotcha.
So usually you'll get if it's a series, you might get a 2-book deal. The publisher will decide at the end of those 2 books whether they're going to do a third or not. And I know lots of really great writers who have ended up switching publishers or found themselves without a publisher because the sales just didn't
and that's kind of a career-long thing, I guess. As you're writing here and there, that might happen, right?
It can happen to anybody at any time. I think what people forget, because they have kind of a romantic idea of what it's like to be an author, is that...
Well, I see Hank Moody from Californication here. I don't know if that's what your life's like, but...
Totally. Yeah. But it's a business, and it's a business with a very, very thin margin. And, they make their profits on volume, and if the volume's not there, then the author... there's lots of other authors to take a chance on. Or the publishers will, in tough markets, will tend to focus on the established authors who've had good sales.
Gotcha.
So they're better off with someone who's a known bestseller than taking a chance on it.
Easier for them.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting because it's such a hard industry to break into. that J.K. Rowling, the author of
Lord of the Rings.
No,
Or,
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Same fiction.
Same
know.
thing. Anyway,
Fantasy adventure.
she wanted to test out to see what the industry was like now, so she wrote a book under the name Robert Galbraith. And she just pitched it like a normal person trying to get in. It was rejected by hundreds of
really?
of authors. It was picked up by a small publisher. Then they kind of leaked out that it was.
Well, it didn't
J.K.
sell, and
Rowling.
it didn't sell any
anything.
books.
Oh, wow.
No books
Well, a
sold.
lot of authors do that, eh? I know Stephen King did it under Robert.
Yeah, but that was known. That was known. It was
Oh,
the same
yeah.
thing. She did nothing known, and then it went and now it's number one every single week.
Right.
What
Once
would
they
your-
found
what
out,
would your
once
name
they
be?
found out it was J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
If I came up with a fictitious name?
if you had a fictitious
Well, I was
name.
thinking J.K. Rowling might work.
Yeah, there you go. That could
Go
sell
ahead,
a few
that
books
would
for you.
sell. Okay, so quickly, are we doing enough in Ottawa for our authors? Where can people, the Writers' Festival, when is it held? Why should people be going? And, what can we do better in Ottawa to support our local authors?
Well, right now, or very soon, there'll be it's called Words on the Street in Toronto, which is this huge festival where there's outdoor tents and canopies and stuff all around Queen's Park, and hundreds of booksellers and publishers and authors and, all that stuff. I think we should have something like that going on in Ottawa, and we don't. I mean, it's everywhere else. You'll find a Watts in Vancouver and Winnipeg, and I think there's even some in some of the smaller cities in Ontario. And I really don't know why we don't have it happening in Ottawa, because it's not like we don't have lots of readers.
Yeah.
Highly educated.
And our arts and everything, musically and visual arts and everything, that seems to be stepping it up all over the city. I think you're right. That,
right. And what I like about it is that as opposed to it being something where you have to pay admission to get in and see an author, it's just wide open. It's like, you could imagine it, for example, around City Hall with just a bunch of booths and tents, and it's free.
Or art, Art in the Park,
Yeah,
which was
exactly.
renamed. So they could do it maybe in that, because that's, the Glebe, wonderful area, wonderful water.
Yeah.
If you had it in that area, maybe, yeah. And
I think at hundreds of thousands of people. Like, it's even in bad weather. I was
you
out
get
there.
you get thousands of people in Ottawa for sure.
I was out at Watts last year. I was interviewed by Michael Enright from the CBC Sunday Morning Show with they had a stage going at CBC, and so it's that kind of thing. You have local radio stations and television stations are set up to have interviews with their people, and the authors are in and out, and they sign books, and people buy books, and you see people buy
Demonstrations,
books.
workshops.
Yeah, exactly.
And sell the books. That's definitely anything else. And also, before, because we're running out of time. Quickly, you've had a TV show in the past with real estate, and now you have your current running show right now on Rogers. So a little more about those shows that people can watch for.
Well,
Because you're
the
also
real
a
estate show
TV
is.
star.
It's not just a voice for radio. The television show on real estate is over now. I was on Ottawa Experts as a regular expert on real estate with a panel of people that came onto my show for that. But those episodes are not airing. What is airing is getting published, which we filmed in the spring during the Ottawa Writers Festival. I had 12 Canadian authors. Many of them were from Ottawa, but there was also Gail Bowen from Saskatchewan. Sheila Rogers came in to talk to me from Toronto. Brad Smith from Dunnville, Ontario. Rob Pobey, who sold 260,000 copies of his book Bloodman in France, and he's on the international bestsellers list. He was an Oprah Book Club pick.
Oh, really?
Willa Ferguson, who won the Gillard Prize, and Mary Jane Matheny, Kathy Astolfo, Linda Wicken, who is a local author, bookseller, all award winners. Who else was on? Rick Mafina, Chris Forrest. No, I'm going to forget somebody, and then they'll get mad at me. Barbara Fradkin. Can't think of anybody else. Oh, Hayden Trenham, who's a publisher as well as an award-winning author. So these were really a lot of fun. They were all people that I knew or that I've been on panels with. They came to the house. We ran interviews every 30 minutes, one in, one out. And Rogers is now showing it. I'm not sure what the time is. You'd have to check the schedule. It was supposed to be scheduled for Sunday at 8 o'clock, and that's now been changed, but I haven't been told what the new time is. So typically it's an evening show, and then they repeat it in an afternoon and in a morning during the week with the same author. But I've been told the one with Chris Forrest, where he brought in a ukulele at one point and played a song showing me how he breaks through his writer's block, which was hilarious. Chris's I've seen at least 5 times when I've been flipping through, and we haven't even started the fall season. So they've been great. You know, we're getting lots and lots of coverage for the local authors.
Cool. So watch for Peggy Blair on this show for sure. That'll be a lot of fun. And we do have a number of other great writers in the city as well, right?
Fabulous writers in Ottawa.
That's
we really
amazing.
do. Particularly in my genre, in mystery. You know, they're all award winners.
Are they the same type of books as yours?
Well,
as
not
interesting?
Well,
Not as good, of course.
yeah, we have a number of inferior mystery writers. They're fabulous. I mean, Chris Forrest is one of my favorite writers. I love his. I've always told him Triple Love. Mary Jane Maffini wrote a book with her daughter called Christie's Curse, which is getting all kinds of rave reviews. It's a blast to read, lots of fun. There's really great.
Support your local authors. Come on, that's what we have
buy
to do.
Books.
Buy books, not just online publications, like you said.
Exactly right. So just as we do every single week, thank you so much for coming on. Any major plans this weekend?
I'm working. It's the busy season in real estate.
That it is.
Yeah, showing people around.
Mortgage rates going way too high right now.
They did go up, right?
Yeah,
was it 5.79 or something?
3.79, 5.79.
3.79.
I'll be running for a new job.
Another 5 years.
How soon we forget, eh?
Yeah.
Exactly. So other events going on this weekend. We got the Live 88.5's Big Money Shot. You'll probably see me there on Friday night or Saturday night. I forget which one. Has Zoo Legacy, Liam Lloyd, and a bunch of others, which will be fun. The House of Paint's 10th anniversary. That started last night.
Yeah, that is something great every night. Tonight, DLA Incognito and a whole bunch of other artists at the Basement and Ritual.
Yep.
Then on Friday night, they have...
the concert on the bridge.
Yeah, they got Big Daddy Kane and a couple of other really good ones. Big Daddy Kane's a big one. Oh, African Bombada as well.
houseofpaint.ca to check out the rest of the stuff. So definitely get
Saturday's the where all the big arts are happening, I believe, where they're actually going to be painting under the bridge. And then Sunday they have some other stuff going on.
That'll
too.
be a lot of fun.
Too much to talk about. But
there's also Ottawa Fashion Week going on in Lac Lamy in Gatineau. So it's Ottawa Gatineau kind of Ottawa Fashion Week. That'll be a lot of fun. Latin Sparks has their finale on Saturday, so a lot of people dancing salsa, maybe a little Cubano kind of stuff going on there. That's a lot of fun. Electric Powwow is back at Babylon.
I was just seeing that. Yeah,
that's going to be a lot of fun.
Electric Power.
What else?
There's actually a big an old rave that's going on Friday night from 10 p.m. until the wee hours of the morning. Remember raves?
I don't.
Well, they're back, and they got two good headliners. They got
where are they held?
Kenny Ken and Capital J are going to be there.
I have no idea.
Kenny Ken is a legendary drum and bass DJ from the UK.
Yeah,
and he's been
big
for the last 20 years. It's going to be at Midway Family Fun Park off Saint Laurent.
Yeah, no idea where that is.
Yeah, it's right by the big lighthouse.
How do they get past the hours?
I am not too sure. I'm not too sure. I remember back in the day when there was raves, you had to call in within 24 hours of the party to find out where it's being held, and I guess now it's there. And apparently you can play laser tag and drive go-karts while the party's going on.
You're cooler than I am.
Yeah. I just get these invites. I don't know.
Anything else you got?
No, I think that's it. The big thing for me is the 10th anniversary of House of Paint. Every day something great going on. So
I'll see you there Saturday. I don't think we'll have a show next week, as I am going under the knife for my leg finally. So
yeah.
I'll be interesting.
Our prayers will be with you.
Oh, of course they will. But the week after, we hope to have the girls from the Ottawa Fashion Week and talk some more lady energy, talk some fashion about Ottawa.
There you go.
Maybe they'll teach me and you a thing or two about that one. That'll be a lot of fun.
Well, thanks again, Peggy, for being on the show, and all the best to you with both real estate and with the writing.
Thank you very much.
Can't wait for the next book. So where can they buy the books?
They can buy them just about anywhere. They're
beautiful.
At all the chapters, all the indie stores have them. They're on Amazon. Yeah.
Perfect.
Beautiful. And the last song from Cody Allen Band, Light My Soul. So check them out tonight at Ritual. Have a great night, everyone.
Later.
my feet. You always seem to make my knees go weak. Come back down and stand right next to me. Never thought my heart could skip a beat. 'Cause it warms you up as it starts to grow. Don't let go. Light my soul, burning bright, rays of gold. Lift me up and make me glow. Light my soul, yeah. And the fire keeps burning, and all we see is flesh is red. And the fire keeps burning, and all we see is flesh is of red. And the fire keeps burning, and all we see is flesh is of red. Light my soul, burning bright, rays of gold. Lift me up, make me glow. Light my